There we go. How are you, Paul?
I'm fine, Matthew. And you?
I'm doing
You?
really good. I'm doing
Okay.
good. I'm gonna see if I can send this request to some people to watch the video. Let's see.
Will this be going live or only to people who are participating? I've never done this before on IGTV, so
How's it gone in the past for you?
I'm sorry.
How's the doing it? Have you done this before? You said
No,
you've
no,
done this
no,
before.
never before on
Ah,
IGTV. So
okay.
you just lead the way.
Well, I have to be completely honest. I think this is the second time I'm doing a live
Okay.
video.
Well, you're one step ahead of me.
Well, so what I was saying, if anyone was listening to me before, was that we recently did the article with you, right?
Sure.
And one thing that I was really interested about, that I posted a quote yesterday of you saying it. What was it? It was one client. It was a lot focusing on one. It was like there's one machine. I know in your article you mentioned about how you have you used your straight stitch machine. You have one machine.
Yeah.
Very clean work. It's just you, and it's your client. What was the thing that kind of pushed you to be so simplistic? I mean, is there anything in particular that you can think of?
Well, it's not a choice as such. I think it's just something that came about, and I'm a bit of a minimalist, and I think I like to do things the best way I can and focus on one way of working. So the one machine thing just happened to be there. I had one machine and started out, and I didn't want or I couldn't invest in a lot of machines. So from that, I just decided to traffic in Rome.
Sorry about that. That's Roman traffic for you.
Yeah, that's Rome for you. And from that, I just adapted my system to working with one machine, and working bespoke, meant just one-on-one with the client. And I think it all came together. I like that way of working, and it suited
So
me
it kind
well.
of started out sort of as a necessity for you. Like you started out and you just
think
had a
so,
machine,
yeah.
and you started because you were with one garment basically, right? You were also working on just jeans. So you were working on one garment, you had one machine, there's just you.
Yeah,
A lot of
yeah.
simplistic ideals kind of
The
lining
most
up there.
basic way of doing things, and I wasn't interested in making series, a range of series of. I didn't know how to make this industrial pattern, so I couldn't do a series of full size chart, for instance. It was a bit starting with what I knew, which was limited and specific, so I built upon that. That became my specialty, so to say, my selling point, unique selling point. And by doing what I did or what I knew, I could set myself apart from the rest.
Yeah.
That was something that came from that, Yeah.
Yeah. And what's sort of the thing that you're pushing for right now? I know this is a difficult time for everybody with COVID and everything, but what is sort of your creative direction, your mindset in where you're trying to take Paul Kruize as a company or as a brand or as an artisan?
Well, I think it's still the same, limiting myself to bespoke, one-on-one with the clients. And I did start out just doing jeans, and afterwards there came the shirts and the worker jackets, and it all started with working for myself, trying out things for myself. And at a certain level, when I was satisfied about detailing and making sure everything was thought of constructively, then I just put it out and got people ordering stuff from me. And now I'm just focusing on jeans, shirts, and workers. And I think that's about the scope of it, I won't be doing any suit jackets because I didn't learn how to do the canvassing.
Yeah.
So I'm just keeping it quite simple still. And I can't see myself branching out very much more than this.
I know.
So just doing this and improving, I think the jeans, the patterns are just quite detailed now. Same for shirts. I think the worker jacket is something I'm still working on to improve it. It's all started out with a pattern that was based on a shirt. They also call it a shirt jacket, so it was based on a shirt, and I'm slowly, let's say, doing more detailing in the pattern. So the sleeve is
Evolving the
now
pattern. Yeah.
evolving the pattern now. The sleeve is now based on more on a suit jacket. And I'm also working on my old patterns to use the old jacket patterns to make a worker jacket. So it's improving on those patterns now.
I don't know if you saw recently, who was it? Florian Sivram. I'm pronouncing that terribly. I don't even know if that's the correct pronunciation. They have, I think they're working with Berluti in France, in Paris, France right now. And I saw that they just put on, what was it? Was it them? I think it was them. It was kind of like it was a sleeve, what do they call it? Like a shirt jacket. So basically they made this, it was an outerwear piece, but with a shirt pattern, essentially. And it was just a simple, like the collar that you have, that I have right now, and that you have as well. A collar like that, but it was an outerwear garment, which I thought was really interesting and kind of similar to what you were doing, which is evolving a shirt pattern into other garments.
I think so. You can just grade up the shirt pattern, but I think the difference is on this shirt there's a collar stem and a collar.
Yeah.
On the worker jackets, it's just a one piece. And I think now I'm just more working from the suit jacket, sports coat, making it into a worker jacket. So more fit, more detailing and structure. And you see a lot of safari jackets these days. It's, well, no matter what you call it, I think it's all the same, you know, patch pockets or whatever. The basis is still the same. But I like things to fit well, you know, not being comfortable because it's just oversized and straight, but it needs to have good fit. And so I like now to improve by just going the other way from the suit jacket pattern to a worker jacket instead of basing it on the shirts.
And I know you had told me, and you'd written in the article as well, about how with doing a shirt or a worker jacket or some sort of, I guess it would be any garment that you wear on the upper part of your body, that you either make a fitting and you send that to your client, or you have the client come in. How's that been going? I'm curious how that's been going with the current clients.
I did some things for local clients, so they can just come over for a fitting, which is ideal, of course. And you know, the thing is, with something on your top of your body, you need to take into account the slope of your shoulder and the stance. You know, someone very erect or just bending over. So that's very hard to do without just meeting or without a fitting. I think with jeans, it works out very well without. And I have been sending people some samples just to fit for a worker jacket. Sometimes if it's about a shirt, it's sometimes people send me a shirt that fits them well. And I have them take some photographs of them standing, just front, side, and back photographs, so I can just get a grip on the posture. And once the pattern fits right, you know, then we're done. So if somebody wants to have a second or a third, I can work on that.
Yeah, and I know that I remember in another conversation we talked about how you've had some conversation with Frank Shattuck, and I know Frank recently has been doing a lot. Frank's great, right?
Frank is old school, but he's one of I think the few who does the Skype fittings. Yeah, it's great, you know.
Yeah, the Skype. That's exactly what I was going to say. That he has been working. I don't know how long it's been now that he's been using the Skype fittings. But I think it's going pretty well for him. The reason I brought it up is because I wanted to know if you had spoken to him about that, about doing that, or how he does that.
I mean, Frank is old school, and we are in contact through just mail or messenger, and he's always very kind and just he's an old school tailor, you know. I could learn a lot from him, and he just is very willing to just draw a sketch and send it to me about how to do the sleeve heads, for instance. So it's very helpful, and the Skype fittings is a thing he does often, I think, and strangely enough, I have only done it once or twice. It works quite well, you know, just like we do now. We have someone in front of the camera just putting on the sample. It only takes a lot of time because you have to send over the sample, and especially now with COVID, I mean, the shipping times are quite long. So you have to be patient, and but it does work.
Yeah.
It's a good way of solving a problem when a client can't come to your studio. Yeah.
I noticed I've been asking if there are any questions for you, and one person has written about mass market garments. What is your take on starting out with mass market garments to start, then branching out to single garment specialization as a strategy? Yeah, so that's that's exactly what you were saying before about how it's the one garment working on these. Go ahead.
Yeah. Many people ask me, when you're starting out, just will you be available in shops, for instance, or whatever? And everybody is expecting people that start out to make a next step to grow. And I think growth isn't interesting at all, you know. I'd rather go deeper into the matter than just broadening out and expanding. I mean, I'm working on my own now. Even if I would have an employee or a trainee, it would take so much time and effort and space.
Well, and also there's different types of growth, right?
My growth is just going in depth, you know, improving in quality. That's the growth.
Improving the quality and improving, I would imagine, as well, your relationships with your clients. I mean, growth doesn't have to be just physical growth of having more people or growing revenue or something.
Not at all, not at all. And working alone, you know, there's a limit to my output. So if just 100 people will be ordering now, I have a problem. So I don't want to expand in that way. It's just it's a niche market within a niche, and that's enough, you know, to keep me busy. And it's quite specific what I do, especially with the jeans. I think I'm one of the very few to really bespoke jeans.
Yeah.
And that is a very niche market.
Well, yeah, especially you have jeans, then you're talking about denim, which denim is just even a whole nother world. I remember talking with George from Speciale, who I did a podcast with recently, and he talked about learning about selvage denim, learning about jeans, learning about cutting, and I recommended that he talk with you because it just is so much. It's so different from traditional tailoring.
I think so. I just started out in jeans, and I think denim jeans is a kind of a niche, and within that there's tailoring within the denim is a niche within within the niche, you know. So, and I learned that during the years I'm working now, that I thought my client would be just the ultimate denim head, you know. They would start with just a regular pair of jeans like 501 or whatever, and then go to some a bit more Japanese brand, and then take an extra step in just go bespoke. But funnily enough, I think many people within the jeans world are just very they like the brands, you know.
Yeah.
So they stick to the brands, and so many of my clients just come from another side. They're just interested in tailoring. I mean, if you're having a suit made or whatever, why would you wear something ready to wear as a jeans? I mean, tailoring is bespoke, is addictive, so why not have a jeans made to your measurements? And also people who are just interested in the craft side of it, artisan side of it. So not just the denim head.
Mm-hmm.
So I also dived into the denim world at first, and then decided or found out there's another world of tailoring. So for me, it comes together. You know, I'm somewhere in between.
Well, yeah, and I remember we talked about companies like Dawson Jeans, who it's kind of where they do a different type of work. You know, they use more machines. It's kind of the traditional industrial way of making jeans.
It's small scale industrial, I think. Yeah,
small scale industrial.
Yeah, I think so. It's based on the industrial way of working, and there are a lot of small brands specializing in jeans, and but still working on series and small collections, wholesale, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Paul, I want to be completely respectful of your time.
No
Um,
problem.
are you good on? You're good on time. We can still keep talking. Well,
Yeah, so I do my own time, you know, I make my own time, so no pressure.
yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that's good to know. So then, in terms of trends in jeans right now, is there any sort of beside the whole trend of jeans in general, of workwear, kind of this rugged wear look trend in fashion right now? Are there any other trends that are kind of underlying that maybe people like yourself are familiar with only because you're in the industry?
Yeah, well, I think I found out there's a difference between fashion and tailoring or whatever, you know. I'm not interested in the fashion side of it. The fashion only lasts half a year, maybe even shorter.
Season to season,
And the
and that's it. Yeah.
season to season, the trends are about stretch or whatever. It's awful, you know. That I think what I do also in really the jeans world, it's not as much based on trends, but you do see, of course, in style and also in tailoring a bit more the high waist coming back. So I've done
Mm,
quite some high waist jeans. Better, you know, if you compare, if you just wear it along with a jacket or whatever. So it's I think it's the slim jeans are gone. Thankfully, you know, it's all become a bit wider, a bit more regular, higher up the waist, and but I think I just do my own basic classic style, and I
yeah.
adjust it to what people want. So a certain client would want it a bit slimmer, the other would want it a high waist, a bit wider. So it's just a starting point, you know, and then it's just what the client likes.
And in terms of flexibility with your pattern, um, like I know you're a fan of classic, and I am as well, of a classic cut jean, more of a straight cut jean. What are the limitations when you go to a sort of a skinny jean in terms of making the jean slimmer? At what point is it detrimental to the make of the jean?
Well, you know, in fashion, they all use stretch fabrics. And especially in women's jeans, you know, it's just buy one size and it will fit you. It's stretched to your size. And so, first of all, I don't use stretch denims. So it's all pure cotton, 13 to 16, 17 ounce. So you can go slim, but you can't go tight, you know, because you
Mm,
won't be able to bend your knee. And there's also the thing, you know, with a selvage pattern, the outer seam is straight. So all the shaping will be done on the inner leg. So the slimmer your jeans, the more you need to taper on both sides, on the outer seam, the inner seam. So there's a limitation,
mm,
and it's just a matter of then trying out a sample and see how far you can get without losing your comfort.
yeah. And going back a little bit with COVID and talking about COVID, I know you had plans before, the cases went very high and country shut down. And one of those plans was to go to London to hold a
Yeah,
course on bespoke jean making. Could you
yeah.
talk a little bit about that, or
We
at least what the
planned.
plans were?
Yeah, the plans were. You know, I met Han a few times from Black Horse Lane. I've met him a few times at Kingpins Amsterdam, which is it's a denim fair, but it's more like a get together for many people from the jeans world. And we talked about doing a workshop and in London, just very small, about 4 people to attend, and will be about 2.5 days making their own jeans. So they would supply the patterns because they have their collections, and we would make the jeans using my way of working. So the one machine, the single piece fly. So the construction I would be using from their patterns because there wouldn't be time to make a pattern by hand.
Yeah,
And it would be about 2.5 days in April, last April, but like you said, it all fell through because of COVID. So I hope we can just pick it up again in some time because it was something I really looked forward to doing. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I know. I was looking forward to it as
Yeah,
someone
yeah, yeah,
who had
yeah.
signed up for that, and I was getting ready, and then
You
never
told me, it's very
received an
nice. Yeah,
email, and I thought, oh
yeah,
man,
yeah.
what happened? And never heard back, and then obviously, you know,
They had to
with
shut
COVID and
down the.
everything, it was
I
kind
mean,
of
Black Horse Lane just stopped working for some time. I think it started up again, but things like workshops are not possible now. And I think in London especially, things are still quite hard. So it'll take some time for me
well,
to
yeah, they've
travel
been,
for one thing, but to be able to do those kinds of get-togethers is impossible now. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I know they in London they've completely adapted to like working from home, getting
Yeah.
everybody
Sure.
set up with workstations at home, irons
Yeah.
and all that sort of stuff, machines. And I don't know, I pretty much in Italy things have just kind of been shut down. There are certain people that are already set up to work from home, and so they've been working, and then the people that are in the shop work in the shop. But we'll see where things go in the next couple
Yeah.
of weeks and months.
I hope things
All right.
will be better. And I think for me, I mean, most I do is just from home, working from a home studio. So there's
Yeah.
no limitation for me there. But things like doing a workshop, or we were talking about doing a trunk show somewhere, which is something I would really like to do, just go out and meet other people that
Mm.
would be hesitant to order from a distance. But trunk shows, of course, are also not possible now.
How would you? Oh, one thing that I wanted to ask you. I was going to ask you about the trunk show platform, but then before I ask you about that, how did you choose your denims? Because I know you it's all Japanese denim, right? Japanese selvedge denim.
Yeah, almost
Mm,
everything is
almost
Japanese.
all.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, do you have swatch books like we have in the tailor shop? We have, swatch books
Yeah, well,
of fabrics to look through.
I do have some swatches, but the thing is, if people just order from abroad, it's just a matter of just communicating what do we like, what weight, what color.
Oh,
Most people
okay.
can just choose just by me sending just some photos. Yeah,
Yeah. And
it
so
usually
then
works.
how do you envision a Paul Kruize trunk show? Is there anything in particular that you would add or take away, or because I'm trying to think of like what type of shop would you set up in that kind of resonates with the
Yeah,
Paul Kruize brand as well?
I think I've been thinking about this. You could just go into the jeans world and offer bespoke, or you can just go into the tailoring world and offer jeans, so to say.
Mm,
Often in the tailoring scene or in the high-end menswear, they do offer made to measure or bespoke, but the jeans are usually just some brands,
yeah,
maybe made to measure, but it's still not on the level of their other products. So I think there's a gap for me to go into to offer the same quality in jeans as they would offer in suiting.
yeah,
I think in general, the jeans world will be not interesting enough because it will be, I think they will be not used to the bespoke process. So I could imagine being in a high-end men's store
mm.
involved with tailoring to offer them bespoke jeans. So like some
Something like
specialist store,
Drake's or, for
Drake's, the
example,
Armory,
Drake's, yeah,
whatever.
the Armory, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I think those,
those.
I mean,
Kind,
those clients are as well. I think are more open to kind of the trends of the bespoke world. Like they're kind of the I don't want to use the word fashion because that's not exactly what it is, but there is still they're very involved in the style. So
sure, and they know the process
things
of
like
bespoke,
military
and there was
wear.
yeah,
Yeah, they know the process of bespoke. They know
yeah.
about the whole world with doing fittings, with things being handmade. They're familiar with all that sort of stuff.
I think there would be a good combination. And the only thing is that for me, traveling is especially now, but it's time consuming. It's costly. So especially going to America or Australia, whatever, or Japan, to name a few. Ideally, you would have to go there twice. Once to meet people, take the measurements, and a second time to go back for a fitting. So the
Yeah,
thing is, also with capacity, is it possible to make it worthwhile in terms
Well,
of
and then
investment.
you're doing two. I mean, you would do, because we'd be talking about doing something like a shirt, right? You're talking about doing something like a shirt or a worker jacket, because with that you need to be more hands-on.
Yeah, well, I think
Whereas
if I
because if it
would
was
do a
jeans,
trunk
you could
show,
just do the normal, like sort of.
yeah, but I think for a trunk show, I think being in that environment of, let's say, a Drake's or Armory, people would expect you to have a fitting, and it would be ideal to have a fitting like it would have for local clients. It's an extra step, but it's very nice to have. I think that client would expect a fitting, so a second meeting. I've been thinking you could just go there, have a fitting, and then set up some kind of a small workplace somewhere to spend 2 or 3 days making
Yeah.
samples, and then have a second fitting within the same week. But that's a matter of just facilitating what I would need. It would be, yeah, it's just a matter of logistics, so to say.
Of logistics, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and then I know there are people like Edward Sexton who they kind of have like they have a quota, they have a minimum buy
yeah,
basically
sure.
for them to
Yeah,
come to a certain country, and then that way they're sure that they cover, all of those expenses
that would
that are.
help. Yeah, but
Yeah,
still, it's new. It's a new thing for me. So it's if you're Edward Sexton, you can say, well, these are my rules, and yeah. But for me, it's just trying out, seeing if it would work at all. So it's
yeah.
something you can't just put demands on the table too
Would
much.
you be thinking of where's the large majority of your clients are? I think that are they from the U.S.? I remember you told me.
Yeah, US, some Australia, all around Europe, but yeah,
So you'd probably be looking at New York for a trunk show, at least for the first.
I think New York would be nice, or somewhere in California maybe. Someone said
Hmm.
me that Chicago would be nice, would be a good place to go.
Yeah, and then I think we had Chris Despis listening as well, who's or he I'm not sure if he is or still is listening or not, but um, who is one of the one of the predominant American tailors who is out of Chicago.
Okay, cool.
Um,
Yeah, cool.
Definitely a recommendation if you're looking to
Yeah,
do something
but
together.
New York would be a top three destination, of course. It's
Yeah,
great. Yeah,
yeah. I had
but
there
even
was
so, just Europe. I've maybe Europe first. Go to a place a bit closer, just to get the routine going. Maybe start with London or Stockholm or whatever, or Berlin.
yeah.
Just to see if the process will be working. If it can do it in one stay, or have to cut it up in two. So yeah.
There was one question. With the world becoming more casual, how do you think the luxury clothing industry will do in the future? Um, which I think you kind of spoke to that a little bit earlier about. Um, I think you spoke to that a little bit earlier. I can't quite remember what you said. What was that?
Yeah, well, I'm not too much in the luxury department or the formal
Yeah,
department, but I think what I do is somewhere in between, because it is casual, but it is bespoke. It's well fitted, and so it's somewhere in between, best of both worlds, so to say.
well, exactly. I think also the casual. I think those two worlds have come together and have been coming together.
I think so.
Where
Yeah, yeah,
you can go to like what is it, Suit Supply, I think, who has they have trousers that you can wear with the jacket, but they're sweatpants, things like that. So I think the
yeah, sure.
luxury
Yeah,
industry, and I'm not trying to say by any stretch of the
the
imagination that like Suit Supply is
knitted
the best
jacket or
thing out
so.
there.
Yeah,
But yeah, but I mean, there are ways of closing the gap between casual, while still being luxury.
I think if you don't have to wear a suit or a three-piece, there are different ways of defining casual. You could say like the knitted suit jackets, which I don't like, I must say, but I'd rather have just a decent worsted flannel for a worker jacket. Good
Yeah.
fabrics, good fit, but a more casual fit. More casual style.
Well, yeah,
But
and then you also
all kinds of definitions.
get into the argument of, um, of having a lot of pieces but quality pieces, or having a lot of pieces but less quality pieces, and that sort of thing. Where it's like it's all the same sort of conversation where you're saying, get a flannel worker jacket that you like, and in 10 years you're still going to like it, and you're going to
I
be able
think
to.
so.
That's
Yeah.
going to be able to grow with you, and you can let it out, you can bring it in. Um,
I think you should always start with quality if you can afford it. Buy the best you can afford, and then I mean, you always regret cheap things, you know. If it doesn't fit you well, it's just a one-time wear, and you'll be sorry for it.
We have from the same guy. We have another question. For a young tailor, who would you recommend learning to make custom clothing? Maybe learning from to make custom clothing, I would imagine. Who would they learn from?
For a tailor, that would be a question for you, I think. You're
Perhaps. I don't know. I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite
wouldn't-
sure who I would
I
say.
couldn't tell you.
I'm not
couldn't
sure.
tell you.
I would
No.
say it's really difficult, and I would say to try to find someone who you get along with. I think finding the right fit is the most important thing, even more so than the work. I think finding someone that you get along with and that you can
I think that's the most important thing. Needs to be a connection,
Yeah.
and in the end, you have to make your own decisions on your own style and method of working. And like I said, I was mainly self-taught, but I had some things to put me in the right direction, at least to get me started, and then to develop further, you know. And then I would just make my own choices by just looking around what others do, looking at YouTube videos, make how-to videos, and I just saw a great video from Taylor Lee Marsh in London, just showing how to do a sleeve. It's great, you know. It's not what I do, but I do look at it for inspiration, for ways to do things
Or also
differently.
you see how someone holds the fabric, or they turn things, and that kind of
everything,
gets
you know,
the wheels moving. Yeah.
And he's doing a lot of things that you would do as a tailor, but I wouldn't do it in my work. But still, the techniques can be valuable, and way of thinking, you know, of it's very helpful.
Yeah. Well, and then there's also, in terms of, I know you were talking about videos, looking online videos and whatnot, and people post things on Instagram as well. But there's the new series by Reza, who we also did an article on recently.
Oh yeah,
if anybody's interested. And I don't. Have you seen any of those videos that he's been doing on YouTube?
Yeah,
Who
I've
is
seen them
the
all
hot
by now.
needle and burning thread, I believe.
Yeah. I think he's very thorough, and it will be like an encyclopedia. I think, you know, what he's doing now.
Yeah.
It's all on a jacket, and he didn't even touch the fabric yet of cutting a jacket. And still 20 episodes already. Yeah. It's crazy, you know. It's very nice, and it's very from step A to B to C. It's great, you know. I think if you're into tailoring or making anything at all, it's a very good series to dive into.
I think it's a great series.
Yeah.
And one of the things,
and quite unique.
It is quite unique. It's well done as well. It's well done. And one second here. I remember when I talked to Reza about it, and then he posted the first couple of videos. I forget which ones they were. And I went and I watched like the first one, and it's talking about, what was it talking about? I think he was talking about bite and like how much you need to take with the needle and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Taking another bite.
And I was like, man, he's really going in depth on these. And then you see 22 videos, and you know, and he hasn't touched the fabric, which is like incredible.
It's great, you know.
It makes you think about how much actually goes into the whole process.
But at the same time, he's very down to earth in his approach. He's very detailed, but still, like with all the things you need to make something, the scissors and whatever. In the end of the video, he skips about 2/3. You know, you don't need it. You don't need it. So he's also very down to earth in not making that any more difficult than it is. So that's this very nice combination. Yeah.
Well, do you see that at all in I mean, do you see tailors who do make it more difficult than it is, or kind of downplay certain aspects when there should be more important or more importance placed on them? Or I know in my experience, it sometimes can be really difficult working with tailors and figuring out what's important and what's not important, because sometimes, you know, tailor might tell you, okay, well, this measurement is 1.5 centimeters, and you don't think anything of it, but at the end of the day, you're making a pattern, and you're like, oh man, that measurement there, that's fixed, and I need that measurement. What is it? It can be difficult.
I think you need to learn the basics, and if it's 1.5 centimeters, you should try it and see if it works for you. Maybe it should be 1 or it should be 2. But I think a lot of time in tailoring or in a lot of things, they try to make it look harder than it is or more mystical than it is to
Yeah.
keep it just a bit, to keep it a distance, And I think it's like with the Lee Marsh video, he was talking about the sleeve cap, how much extra room do you need to ease it in? And it's somewhere between A and B, and it all depends on fabric and whatever. If you want Neapolitan, you need more, of course. So, but still, it's something to work from.
Well, I actually think that's been one of your strengths, is that you haven't been, I think there's a lot of advantages coming from an English school of tailoring or an Italian school of tailoring. But you not coming from either one of those, I think it gives you this advantage. No, I think it gives you a great advantage. Well, yeah, you're free to do what you want to do, and you can focus on quality. You can focus on the things that actually matter instead of, maybe traditional things that kind of hold you down, where, some master tailor may say, oh, well, you're never going to do a double, the double edge stitch. I'm not quite sure what it's called in English.
Sure, yeah.
The puntini that are on the edge of the jacket. Okay. A master tailor might say, oh, no, we only do, one line.
Oh, the single. That's all.
I mean, we're talking about things that don't really matter and that take up mental space, right?
Yeah. And I think, it's like Italians do it a certain way, the English in another way. Why not reverse, Make your own choice in how you want to detail things, if you want to patch pocket or not, or whatever. It should be your choice as a tailor to do so. And maybe even change something because the client will ask for it. And the thing is, I just, going back to the jeans, there are a lot of details to decide on when you try to decide how your jeans will look like, what the constructive parts will be. How is the yoke? How do you deal with all the construction problems? And I would take one solution from one video and another from another video.
Yeah.
Seeing what would fit me, how it would be how it would find its place within the whole jeans I would make. So it just takes things from everywhere and build your own system.
Well, and then on top of that, you get into things more complex, like what I saw you're doing with the lined jeans. I'm not sure if that's flannel or what it was.
Yeah, I'm just working one now. Yeah.
Which it gets even more complex then, right? Because you're trying to figure out how that construction process will be.
Yeah, if your basic jeans is just 100% proof, it works from all the sides, everything is taken care of in the construction and the pattern, then you can just go on and see what needs to be altered for a certain client.
Yeah.
And with these line jeans, I've just made one in a heavier denim with a light chambray lining. I'm now working on one that is a lighter denim, about 10 ounce, which is quite light for me, with a bit heavier flannel plaid lining. And the construction is different to the previous one because, the previous one I would just double the panels and stitch it together. And in this case, I would think that just stitching the heavy flannel together on the side seams would be too heavy. It would just drop down and show marks of weight of the flannel.
Yeah.
So in this case, I would just make a loose, separate lining, so there will be no pulling on the outer seams. But the system for the jeans itself is just done, So that's
because
that's a given.
Going back to the beginning of that sort of line of thought, which is you focused on what's important, and what's important and how to accomplish that, and then now you can add all of these different, the beautiful different layers that go in between of, okay, we're going to do a lining here. Okay, well, how is that going to change the seams of the jean? Is it going to be too thick on the edges? And so then you get into all these different shades of tailoring, which is great.
If your basic setup is okay, then you can make variations on the theme, so to say. I've done some chino kind of things, high waist with a, I don't know if you can see it, with the fish eye.
Can't see it, but yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the that opens up on the back. Yeah.
Opens up, the V shape with. So it's a Hollywood waist, so you need a different construction for your waist with the lining, whatever. So it's all. Once you master one thing, you can just build up onto something else. It works. I think that's a good system to work. Yeah.
Well, one last question for you, and then close things, what is, do you see a reason for tailors to get together to talk about things? Does that happen? Um, and just general thoughts on communication and community in the tailoring world.
I'm not sure. Like I said before, I'm not really in the tailoring world. I do have some contact with like Frank Shattuck, for instance, or one or two tailors. We talk online and quite informal. It's very nice. But in the denim world, you have Kingpins, which is also now just online, unfortunately, because of COVID. But that's industry, and I think it's a very nice place for me to meet people. Some guys like Black Horse Lane, you would meet there. Some small makers.
Yeah.
I met the people from 100 Hands, the shirt makers, for instance. So you get into contact with people a bit like-minded. And it's more like a get-together, like I said, a bit like a club feeling.
Yeah.
But I don't know about the tailoring world, if such a thing would exist. Maybe the Pitti Uomo, but I've never been there.
Well, it's a bit different. I've been talking with a lot of tailors from London recently, and they have this great thing where there is like a group of young people, and they've worked together, particularly on Savile Row, but in that whole in London in general, it's more common to bump into people who
sure, there's a lot of tailors within square mile. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and then one thing that was interesting, I was talking with Laura Teasdale, and she told me about how you're working in one house on Savile Row. You go out for lunch and you meet someone who maybe you've trained with before, and you're able to kind of talk and see where the other person's at. And I think that is something that's really helpful for.
I think so, yeah.
For community, and I mean, even just having a good job that you feel satisfied and fulfilled, and I think that's something that's very good.
I think like Kingpins, I really miss Kingpins. It's online, but I think it doesn't fill the gap for me.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're just there to buy your stuff, it's okay. But I did check out some fabrics over there. But the main thing was just meeting people, just communicating one-on-one. Because I'm here most of the year, I'm just working alone here. So it's nice to go out a few times a year and meet people there. But
yeah,
I think transferring that online is not a thing. It's not a feel,
Yeah. Well, for everyone watching currently, I highly recommend you go and check out the article that we did with Paul. And there will also be coming out in November a podcast that we recorded a couple weeks ago, not only with Paul, but as well as with some other people in the industry, Laura Teasdale, who else? Reza as well will be on there. And Paul, I want to thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Out of your day, and we wish you a good work day, and I'll get back to the apprenticeship. And
I'll go back to lining my jeans.
Great. Well, have a good day, Paul. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Matthew. See you later.